Welcome. We are so delighted to have all of you here today. Who thought that accessory dwelling units was a hot topic? Wow. It turns out somebody from AARP who is here on the way over heard on the CBS News a special broadcast is going to be about ADUs. Wow. Oh, I'm glad you're here. You all know what's going on at the state level. You all probably know that Belmont has also enhanced its bylaws to help citizens in Belmont do ADUs. And we are sponsoring this tonight to help you guys get information about that. What does it mean for you? What is one? How does it work? How do you build one? How do you design one? All the questions. So let me introduce myself, some of our speakers, and tell you about what's going to happen today. So my name is Judy Morrison. I'm the chair of the Age Friendly Action Committee. Anybody ever hear of that?
Yep.
Okay, only the panelists. So we are part of the Council on Aging, which we have all heard of. And our role is to enhance and improve Belmont from an age-friendly standpoint. And 4 specific areas are included: housing, communication, walkability, and outside areas. We have a website on the town site, so you can look up more about that. Today we're here about housing and ADUs. So the Age Friendly Action Committee Housing Group is sponsoring this along with our Belmont Housing Trust, and Mike Murata is here representing them. We have 2 special expert speakers today. And then after the speakers, we have a Q&A with a series of experts who you will find along this wall. We will introduce each of them. We have architects, builders, finance support, all of those things that you might have questions about. So this is also being recorded because we pulled together these experts and we want it to be available on the planning site for anyone who should be interested in doing an ADU. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers. First, we'll have the director and town planner, head of our planning and building operations, Chris Ryan. Yay! Okay. Next, we have Lieutenant Daly, who is also a member of our Age Friendly Action Committee, and she will be speaking about how to work with a contractor, pitfalls that you might fall into, help that you can get if something should go wrong. Thank you, Kristen. Then we'll do the Q&A with our panelists. Our panelists include architects, builders, finance support. We also have someone from AARP with a myriad of fantabulous booklets, including the ABCs of ADU and a step-by-step guide to doing an ADU, all brought to you by AARP. Thank you. Without further ado, Christopher, take it away.
Thank you, Judy. Again, Chris Ryan, Director of Planning and Building for the town of Belmont. And I just want to sort of go through the basics of what you should be thinking about related to some of the approvals that you're going to need for your ADUs. And it's high level, so as I'm going to say throughout this presentation, you're welcome to get in touch with us. Myself and my Inspector of Buildings are your guardian. We're both available to answer questions and sit down with you and talk to you about your ideas and your plans. So please take advantage of that, definitely. There's the Action Committee right there. And Judy, is this presentation going to be available?
Oh, sorry, I was going to do that then.
Okay. You want to take that back? There you go.
Sorry. So this is the Action Committee, and on the right is the Housing Committee. Next slide.
That's me.
And that's it. This presentation will be available. We only have about 10, 15 copies, which is why we got your email. We will email this to you, so you will have all the details of this. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay, what to know about zoning and permitting. So the state passed the ADU law, and all towns were required to abide by it. That didn't mean that they had to pass a bylaw, but that they had to accommodate anybody who wanted to adhere to the law. And if towns did want to pass a bylaw, it had to align with the state law, and we did that in March of this year. So it's available online. I can certainly send you a PDF copy of it. I brought one of them with me here today just to make as reference for myself, but it's definitely something that you're going to need to take a look at, and your contractor will as well. So a little bit about what ADUs are. It's a small residential living space located on the same lot as another home. And as we're going to talk about, they can be internal within the existing primary residence, like converting a basement into an apartment or an attic. They can be attached to the primary residence as a new construction addition, or completely detached like a cottage or a converted detached garage, or you could build on top of an existing garage. That's the law, the Affordable Homes Act from 2024, that mandated that all ADUs can be built by right in single-family zoning districts. So this is just a graphic showing the different types of ADUs, detached, attached, and all the other configurations that are possible. I'm sure there are some that can go beyond even our imagination. So right now, according to the law and our bylaw, a single, what's called protected use ADU can be established by right wherever a single-family home is located or can be built. However, in some cases, as I'll touch on, site plan review may be required. That's going to the planning board. So ADUs could be any of the following. Those are the ones that we just spoke of. They must maintain a separate entrance from the principal dwelling, and there's a size limitation. No larger than half the area of the main house in gross floor area, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. So reasonable restrictions, you have to maintain the setback, height, and bulk restrictions that are in the zoning district in which you're located. And site plan review, again, may be required in some cases, which is the next slide. Owner occupancy of either dwelling unit or ADU is not required in either case. And no parking spaces are required to be provided if the unit is within a half mile of a transit station or a bus stop. And only one space is required if you're outside of that transit zone. So here are the types of situations in which site plan review may be required. And I'm just going to touch on these because they're kind of technical. If the ADU exceeds the height of the main house, but is still within the maximum height allowed in the zoning district. For example, if you have a Cape Cod at, I don't know, 21 feet, and you want to build an ADU that is 28 feet, which is allowed in your zoning district. You can do that, but you have to get site plan review for it. A two-story accessory building or adds a second story to an existing accessory building. Increases the lot coverage above the maximum or decreases the open space, and we'll touch on that as well, because that's actually something that the planning board and town meeting provided a little bit of an extra room, wiggle room for people who want to build ADUs, knowing that some lots and houses may have already maxed out their maximum lot coverage that's required. So we provided some little elbow room there. There are some provisions of section 1.5.4 of the zoning bylaw where site plan review is required, and they would still be required in the case of an ADU for those lots. And a building is being converted or added to accommodate an ADU that has one or more pre-existing nonconformities. But I'm not going to talk about nonconformities tonight because they are very complicated, and I would definitely recommend talking to staff about situations like that. But in every other case, simply a building permit would likely be all you need. So where can you build that ADU in Belmont? Well, anywhere a single-family home is allowed, in all of our single residence districts, single residence A, B, C, or D. I didn't bring a zoning map, but it is online, so you can take a look at those districts, and likely if you own a single-family home, you are in one of those districts. The general residence district, and then other districts where a single or two-family is allowed or currently located. You might have a situation, honestly, where there's a commercial district. You might have sort of a leftover single-family house that's still being used as residential there. You could have an ADU on your lot. Two-family homes can also have an ADU, but only one. And you could technically build it, like I said, in the local business district, but you would have to make sure that that principal dwelling is still there. The zoning bylaws. This is what your contractor, your architect should definitely be familiar with. There are 5 sections of the bylaw that have changed to accommodate the ADUs. One is section 1.4 definitions, 3.3 scheduled use regulations, which is just merely putting the ADU use in there in that table. Section 4.3.5 accessory buildings. Section 611 historic accessory buildings preservation. And then the big section, which I brought a copy of, is section 6.14 accessory dwelling units. It's about 10 pages. It has a lot of things that I would definitely make sure that you don't inadvertently have an issue with. So really be familiar with that. I'd be glad to send anybody a copy. I've left my business card in the back, so I look forward to sending that to anybody that may want it. So setbacks. We talked a little bit about how the provisions of the zoning that are in place for the bylaw for, let's say, single residence A, those are the dimensions that you need to abide by if you're building an ADU. If it's a height restriction, you need to go no higher than that height restriction. If it's a setback, whatever building addition you provide can be no closer than that setback. And then for accessory buildings, basically we've set it at 5 feet. So if you are no closer than 5 feet, you're in good shape. We also developed a system like I was talking about for additional maximum lot coverage and lower minimum open space just for the purpose of ADUs. You can use this for ADUs, you can't use it for anything else. So what it does is it moderately increases the lot coverage beyond the current maximums of the bylaws. And their existing lots are non-conforming in lot size, will not have that non-conformity applied for ADUs. So these are the different zoning districts: single residence A, B, C, D, and general residence. Shows the minimum lot area. For example, let's see, does this have a pointer? Doesn't work, oh no. All right, well, I'll use my old-fashioned pointer. So single residence A, lot area, 25,000 square foot minimum. The base lot coverage is 20%. So what we offer you is an additional 5%, so you can go up to 25%, and so on for the various zoning districts. We have a similar table for open space, which reduces the amount of open space that you're required to have as well. So it's not a huge amount, but at least it gives a little bit of flexibility. So project approvals. I talked about the 5 situations that will require design and site plan review, and all other applications which are compliant with section 6.14 should be reviewed and approved administratively if they meet the building code requirements, which I'll get to in the next slide. So I'm not going to read all of this. I'm just basically going to say that the building code, the fire code, and all the other building related codes, they must be met. You can't just buy a Walpole woodworker's shed, put it in the backyard, and assume that that's going to be compliant. You need to make sure that your unit meets all of the building code requirements. And if you're building something integrated into your house, there needs to be a firewall that provides separation, and that separate entrance that we talked about as well. So again, this will all be available in the PowerPoint slideshow that you can have available to you. I'll put it up on my website as well under a section tab called ADUs. And this is just sort of a where to start. I would not spend a dime until you consulted with us. Bring your idea to us. We'll spend the time with you, we'll sit down with you, we'll go over your idea, we'll make sure that your idea is compliant with the code to give you the sense of comfort that when you do talk to your architect, when you do talk to your contractor, that you're not, throwing money down the toilet, okay? So this is just sort of a process. It's very simplified, but it kind of gives you an idea of meeting with OPB staff to discuss your project idea, submitting the building permit application. If it does require site plan approval, you go down this row right here. If it's allowed by right, you can get your building permit in that section right there. So hopefully, if you do have an idea, hopefully we're not able to burst a bubble of that idea. Hopefully you can do what you want to do, Maybe there might be a couple of adjustments here and there, but we just don't want to make sure that you don't take that step in a direction where you've spent money and you have to backtrack. And again, please contact our Inspector of Buildings, Ari Ugurdian. You can email him or give him a call, and I will join him for any kind of consultation that he may have. So I hope that's useful. I'll be glad to answer any other questions, but for now, I'm going to turn it over to Kristen.
Hello everyone, again I'm Lieutenant Kristen Daly from the Belmont Police Department. What we put together a while back, the Age-Friendly Action Committee, was a how-to guide of how to do improvements on your home and how to do it to keep you safe, to not unfortunately be taken advantage of by contractors, and to make sure things are done right. So we started again, we worked with the Belmont Home Fit, the AARP Home Fit Guide, and we took a lot of their ideas. And then I reached out to our planning department and said, okay, for the town of Belmont, what needs permits, what doesn't need permits, what do people need to do? So we put together a pretty good guide so you understand, what needs permits and what doesn't. Because unfortunately, as police officers, we've seen situations. I had one senior who just wanted to screen in their back deck, found a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend who did it. Neighbor calls, no permit was ever pulled. She had to take the whole thing down. Yes, that's why it's very important to have a good, trustworthy contractor who knows what they're doing and knows what permits that need to be pulled and how to do it. Okay, so again, we talk about, with planning, always consult with the Town Office of Planning and Building. You always want to start there. Having that education, understanding what needs to have permits, what your restrictions are with setbacks is very important. Because especially when you start talking to builders and they don't know any of it, then you know that is not the builder for you. Again, we talk about working with an architect or designer for large projects. It also talks about budgeting, materials. I also have a written plan before engaging contractors. You always want to know what you want to do before you speak with a contractor, because sometimes they'll try to sell you the moon. You need to have your plan, what you want, what you don't want, what you can have, what you can't. Because as Chris said, you would not want to have something built and then realize it's not up to code and then have to either rip it out and do it all over again or not be able to do it at all. So you want to describe in writing even small projects, even if it's, doing over your half bathroom. You want to have that all written out for the contractor so they know exactly what you want. Okay, so you want to do your due diligence when selecting a contractor. I have given talks and lectures about scams and frauds, and 'tis actually the season for fly-by-night contractors to go by people's homes, especially homes that might need a little work, and knock on the door and say, I'm in the area, I was working on your neighbor's house, I can do this work for you. We've seen them, they either start the work, don't finish it, take the money and run, or just take the money and run. So you want to interview at least 3 contractors. You want to make sure you get written estimates, and you want to check their license and their registration. You want to get a written contract. We actually have a sample in the guide of exactly what you need, because even in the contract, the correct contract, it does say, you have a right to sue me if I violate this contract. That's the builder saying that. So again, before you sign, you want to review it against the sample contract. You want to have a price and payment schedule. It is so important. Unless it is for specialty items, like some kind of fancy Brazilian cherry that has to be shipped from far away, you don't need to put a lot of money up front. Usually it's a third, and a third. And unfortunately, we have seen where the contractor takes a lot of money up front and doesn't deliver. And again, you want a detailed list of work and materials, and you want your start and completion dates. Do not sign a contract if they do not give you completion dates. I mean, things do happen. I mean, we know I was actually doing work on my house when COVID hit. So, things can happen that are sometimes out of someone's control, but you want a start and completion date on your contract. And also, when you are picking out a contractor or an architect, a good contractor and architect should have a list of references. People that you can call. Customers, projects that they have finished. Not projects that they're working on, projects that they have finished. You should be able to contact those people, because I've been the person that my architect has put on their reference list, or the builder. So you definitely want a list of references. and you want to call as many as you can. Okay, so what if something goes wrong? You want to communicate with the contractor and document in writing any dispute. Writing. Email is best, or text. No handshakes, no verbal. If there's a problem, best is email. You want to have it all documented. If there's more of an issue and the contractor's not agreeing with you, you can get mediation through the Attorney General's office. There is the Home Improvement Arbitration Program, and if worse comes to worse, you can take court action. You should definitely get legal advice before all claims. If you need assistance, you can contact the Consumer Affairs and Business Regulation. There are resources in the state that will help you with this. You just need to know where to find, but you have to do your due diligence. Unfortunately, so many times, and it's been people of all walks of life who have unfortunately been taken advantage of, and they've all said, it's always after the person took advantage of them. Oh yeah, I looked, and they have all these bad reviews. Oh, I looked, and there's a lawsuit against them. You need to do that all, with the internet now, you just have to throw a person's name in, and there's so much that you can find. It's so much easier to search and find things about that person. Okay, so again, remember, your contractor must get all required permits. This is sometimes where you can save money if you do it yourself, but you're not as protected if the contractor does it. When do you need a permit? So that's exactly our guideline. It's kind of small there, but you can see it, and it talks about, when you need a permit. Like if you're just putting up railings to steady yourself, no. But if you were going to put safety bars in the bathroom, or if you're going to open up a wall, yes, you definitely need a permit. So again, pages 16 and 17 of the guide will go all over. We'll go through it. Okay. So again, just remember, you have all these resources. The Belmont Planning and Building, the home modification, we have, so again, with the question and answer. So right now, we have plenty of people here you can talk to. If you have any questions that you don't think about till tomorrow, you can absolutely get in touch with Chris. He has his card. But so again, we have Chris, we have Jackie from the Home Modification Consultant, we have Michael from the Housing Trust, we also have the Builders and Remodelers Association, Gary, and we have the Home Modification Loan Program, Kathy. You want to do your due diligence. Unfortunately, with these ADUs, because it's such a big thing now, this is also where the scammers come out. It was just like when COVID hit and people were getting the unemployment and they were doing all those claims for unemployment, or when there's a big tragedy and people create these fake charities. Now that they know ADUs, these fraud contractors are going to be going out there, knocking on doors, soliciting people. Ignore them. Don't answer your door for anyone. You want to do all that we said. You want to actually reach out to different contractors, call their references. You just want to make sure that you do your due diligence. Sometimes the contractors will say, oh, this darn inspections. Those inspections are there to protect you, to make sure that they are following, like the rough plumbing inspection, to make sure that all the plumbing is placed properly. The electrical, to make sure that is done properly. Those inspections, they sometimes say, oh, it holds up jobs, but there's a reason for that. You want someone, a third party who has no interest in your home, only interest in it being safe, from the town inspecting that. Okay, so now if people have questions, we'll take some questions right now. And what we're going to do, Judy, when you ask your question, just because we have this recorded, she's going to repeat it, and then the person will answer it. Okay?
And I want to give each of our folks a minute to introduce themselves before the question, so you know who they are. So I don't think this is a traveling mic. So if you guys could come up one at a time and just say who you are. I'm going to bring it over here to Mike first, and then Eric, make your way up.
Hi everyone, I'm Mike Corrado. I'm with the Belmont Housing Trust. For those of you that don't know, the Belmont Housing Trust, our primary mission is to support the development of affordable housing in the town of Belmont. A few of the things that we've done is we've looked after the bylaws for the MBTA and also the ADU. We've been supporting this effort. We've sponsored the Waverly Oaks project, and support affordable housing. It's sort of our passion, and I'm very happy to see everyone here tonight. I also happen to be an architect. I work on affordable housing for almost my whole career here around Boston, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
And Eric?
Yeah, hi, I'm Eric Rodine. My wife is an architect too. She's not with me tonight. We're both Belmont residents for over 40 years, and we've had a business together called Lion Company Architects. We're local. We're actually down the street, and we have some samples of one house that we did back in 2021, 20 years ago. It was a panel house that we imported from Sweden, and we have some pictures of that. And we see a good opportunity for panels to be used with ADUs because they can be installed very quickly. And we obviously work with the building department to make sure that everything complies. And we have projects in Lexington and Cambridge all over. So we've been a big firm, but we're a small firm now. Thank you.
And I skipped over Rosemary, who is also a Belmont resident and representing AARP. And if you want the ABCs of ADUs, you see Rosemary. Gary.
Yeah, hello, my name is Greg. I'm a member of BRACI. BRACI is Builders and Remodelers Association of Greater Boston. I'm also a Belmont resident. I own properties here. My daughter goes to Belmont High School. I was on the planning committee for the high school. I was on the rebranding committee to get Minuteman back on our taxes. Belmont a couple of years ago as well. With BRACI, we have over 350 contractors in the Boston area. These contractors have been members of our organization. They're reliable, reputable contractors. I think when you're looking for a contractor, you want to find somebody who's connected to communities, connected to other things, other associations, as well as maybe knowing somebody who knows them. As mentioned, you want to see what work they've done, possibly get to go see some projects or things like that.
Okay, great, thank you. Look at that, close. So close.
I could probably yell it. My name is Kathy Tammany. I work for Community Teamwork in Lowell, and I'm one of the provider agencies that does provide home modification loan financing, not only for ADUs, but for other projects that are necessary for either an older adult or somebody with a disability in your home. It's for aging in place, living independently, and it is up to $50,000. And it is 0% financing, no monthly payments, and you would never have to pay this back until the home was sold or the deed was transferred. So it is a great opportunity to help provide additional financing, because ADUs are not less than $50,000. And I have done basement projects, attic projects, and even though I'm not a representative in your area, I have a provider agency list for this area that you could reach out to somebody. It is a state-funded program. It is a huge benefit to those. There are some eligibility requirements, and I have some documentation here. And if you have any questions, just reach out.
Okay, we're ready for questions. I'll be the runner. Yes, sir.
I have a question for Lieutenant Bailey.
Yes.
It was an excellent presentation. I always thought that you should check to make sure the contractor is licensed by the Commonwealth, so you can then go use other legal means if the contractor doesn't deliver.
Yes, and no, absolutely, yes. You definitely do want to check to make sure they're licensed through the state. You can also, there's even different things you can do. You can, like let's say they claim that they worked a lot in town. You can make a public records request for their name and see if we have reports of them, having issues, people having issues with that contractor. If it's someone who you kind of don't really feel that they're truly trustworthy and you're kind of on the fence, you know, and they say, well, I've done many jobs in town and I've done a lot. You can always make a public records request and see. But yeah, you definitely want to check to make sure they're licensing, make sure they're insured, which is all through the state. Because unfortunately, the ones that we see that take advantage of people, they are not licensed, they are not insured, they've had several different names. You know, you can check with the Better Business Bureau how they're rated. So, but I'm sure for the Builders Association, those type of contractors make the good contractors, you know, gives them a bad name. It makes people, you know, kind of leery about contractors and concerned. So, yeah, it definitely, as I said, unfortunately, every single time. And I mean, I remember I talked to an attorney about it, and she got taken advantage of. And she said, I did my due diligence after, and that's when I realized that there was something wrong.
Okay, other questions? Yes, sir. The one in the, yeah.
So I just have a question about the square footage. It said it was 900 square feet. That was maximum. And I'm just wondering, does that include like mechanical spaces, porches, patios, and a related question is, can you have a crawl space?
So I'm going to repeat the question, and then I think this is for Chris. And the question is about the space, the maximum being 900, and then there's another qualifier as well. What qualifies in that space? How do you measure it? Is the summation of your question?
Yeah, I can answer it to the extent that it's complicated, and there are various different permutations in what's considered gross floor area and what's not. For mechanicals, it's typically not. But for area that's living space, we also have a differentiation between what's called a basement versus a cellar. So that's definitely a question would be first in my mind to ask our inspector of buildings, Mr. Yogurdian. But there are definitely some technicalities there, and that's a great question to ask. Thank you.
And I saw another question. Wait, first the woman.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm a Belmont resident.
Oh, yes, reach. Let's go.
I had a question of what defines, I'm not sure who will be the right person to answer, but what is adequate, like sufficient separation between an attached ADU to the main? And then my second question, is there a ceiling requirement for basement ADUs?
Okay, I believe those are both Chris questions. I hope, did everyone hear that? No.
The first question, which is what is the separation minimum between an external separated ADU?
No, if it's an internal attached in your main building, what defines like an adequate separation? Is there a wall?
It has to, I believe it has to be a 5-hour rated firewall. And what was the second question?
And then is there a ceiling height requirement for a basement?
I believe all living space is required to be 7 foot 6 inches.
Thank you.
I have another question for Chris. From here to Cushing Square, there's a lot of two-family houses with 5,000 square foot lots. But you mentioned that the setback rules don't change. So how is it possible to do anything?
You may have lots that are just not potential candidates for ADUs. They just may be too small, they may have too much lot coverage. In that sense, if you can't carve it out of the main house, convert an attic, convert a basement, then the only option that you may have is maybe an existing accessory building that may already be on the lot. If you don't have any of that, and you've already blown past the additional lot coverage bonus that we've given, it may be that it's just not possible.
But it seems like, at least the two families I'm familiar with from here to Cushing Square, the lots are like 5,000 square feet. There's probably the 5% would work, but the setbacks seem to be the big problem. And also, Ara's construction down the street here, is that an ADU, or what is that?
No, he's just doing a building addition, and he's not actually doing it himself. We're actually using the Watertown Building Department to do all inspections. So he's cut out of all the issues
Not in
related to
Watertown.
that. Yeah, so just to make
So
sure
that's
that
not an ADU.
there's no conflict, no ADU. But I will say that even with the two-family, you still have to meet the setbacks that are required for that building, that main building. But if you have a separate accessory building, it can be as close as 5 feet to the property line.
And what if you have a non-conforming two-family, how does that work? Is that, you get special consultation then?
Well, it's recommended, yes, because they're basically if there's an existing nonconformity, you can't exceed that nonconformity. If you want to exceed the nonconformity, you may be able to get a special permit, but that's only in some circumstances.
Other questions?
Yeah, I should probably hold this, right?
Yeah. Just ask and then he'll repeat the
Okay.
question.
Yeah, I was wondering about the definition of ADUs. Does it include mobile ADUs, and also does it include, I guess, off-site manufactured homes?
Basically, those two categories are the categories where you need to comply with the state building code. So typically, anything that's on a trailer or on wheels it has to have a foundation. So that wouldn't apply. So you could convert it to something that was, latched to a foundation, but there would probably be a lot of different changes that you may have to make to even the building itself to meet the state building code. So yeah, I would think that that's the first question you want to ask is, I know that some people were talking about bringing in some of those Tesla, mobile units, and I don't know any of those that actually meet the building code.
I have a question, excuse me, it seems to me, if I'm understanding this correctly, that there's sort of two kinds of purposes for ADUs. One would be, let's say, the homeowner who wants help with maybe paying their taxes or getting a little income, and the other would be to make a little bit more affordable housing. I can understand that, but what about the seniors, let's say, who want to put in an ADU, which we did do, and it was, I can tell you, a year-long struggle with a lot of problems, probably much easier if we waited till this year, we just finished. And we're not planning to have that be an income property because we want it for when our kids have to come to help take care of us, or when we have to have somebody living to help take care of us. So in the meantime, our taxes went up dramatically, and I don't see that helping the seniors.
I'm going to try to extract a question out of that. So there are many, many purposes that people might have for putting in an ADU. They may be to help them pay the mortgage, stay in their home. It may be for the homeowner themselves to downsize to a smaller unit and rent out the primary house. It could be to have somebody help take care of them, who might be a caretaker. It might be for an adult child. It could be for one's own parents. So many, many different possibilities there. I think that the thing about ADUs, they are expensive to build. They do add to your taxable value of your house. But you can also, I'm assuming, I'm not a finance expert, I'm assuming that that may be something that's deductible as well, but I don't know. The primary house is certainly deductible, and perhaps if there's a loan taken out on this, that might be as well. I don't know. But it's something to think about. But if there's a reason that you want to develop that ADU, I would certainly recommend thinking about the design with the end user in mind. So for example, when I was in the town of Harvard 4 years ago, before this ADU stuff came along in the state, we passed an ADU bylaw that at that point, up to that point, ADU had to be a special permit. But we said that if you build your unit with universal design, with grab bars and accessible, no step, so that seniors and those who needed some assistance could access that unit, all you had to do was get a building permit. So I would maybe recommend, if you want to have your architect and contractor talk to you about a universal design of a unit that actually can be accessible to all. I hope that helps. If not, come talk to me.
I mean, that's also something that you're gonna have to consider when we talk about this whole plan, especially for seniors, you know. Let's say you build it to help you pay your taxes, but it raises your taxes so much where it almost, you know, so, yeah, so it's a lot of planning. I mean, the ADUs are great, and we're glad that we were able to get this passed, but you really have to put a lot of thought into it, of the cost. You really have to, you know, weigh the cost, you know, the pros and the cons. It's not something just to slap up, you know, it's gonna take a lot of thought and everything, as you said, you know, your taxes, just went up, and it is, cause it is gonna add more value to your home, which is wonderful, but, you know, and, you know, so, and now when there's really think about something like that, you know, maybe talk to a trusted realtor, figure, you know, they might be able to tell you, okay, well, this is probably what the value of your house is, and this is probably what you'd be able to get for rent, so you can kind of figure out, you know, okay, my taxes will increase by this much, then I could possibly get this much rent. So you've got to really do, you know, a lot of research. It's gonna take a lot of thought before you do it. So actually, I have a question for you, Chris. What if there's someone who actually kind of already has something in their house, like a basement apartment? So what can they do to make that?
Yeah, we've actually made a provision for that in the bylaw. What we did was basically say that you can come in and get a certificate of occupancy if you meet the requirements. If you have a unit that already meets that, it's a fairly simple process. There may be some things that you need to do to bring things up to code, but it's probably in your best interest to do that if you can, and we'll work with you on that, definitely.
Other questions?
Hi. I'm assuming the answer is yes, but I want to confirm. There's a lot of homes out here that have a detached garage. Can the detached garage be converted to an ADU such that the end result is that the home now no longer has a covered garage?
You definitely can do that, yes. But that garage has to be built out as an ADU, again, that meets the building code.
Yes.
Yes.
Others? Okay, want to do a couple of thank yous. First of all, huge thank you to Chris and Kristen. And to our specialists. I also wanted to point out that we have about 15 versions of what you just saw, which is certainly insufficient for the 40-something people that are here. So we will email, if you have given your email, we will email this presentation to you. And Chris put his business card on the back. And again, you all are urged to consult with the planning board before you spend any money on this. There is a wealth of information here at the AARP table that Rosemary's pulled together, including the ABCs of ADUs and an incredible guide, which again, you can get online on the AARP age-friendly site. This is a step-by-step guide to planning and developing it. It has drawings from architects and stuff in it. I mean, it has everything you need if you're getting serious. Consider this and or going online to get a copy of this. Again, we have our architect who can answer any kind of architect questions, our building folks, and our finance folks. And right in the back is a place to put your email. And thank you, my final thank you is to the Housing Committee of the Age Friendly Group, who worked incredibly hard to pull all of this together, along with the folks from the Beach Street Center. So a big thank you to them. Ellen and Susan are here. Anything else? And these folks will stay here and answer your questions for another half hour. Yes, oh, we have one more formal question.
Like a small house, say 1,000 square feet, and you wanted to maximize, so your ADU to get to 900 square feet, and you want to do an addition on your house, so you may bring it up to 2,000 to get to 900. Does that addition have to be done separate from the ADU, or can it be done in one construction project?
May I suggest that specific question go personally to Chris?